Hello everyone, welcome to Speedway Motors Tech Talk. My name is Joe, and we're here today to talk about this new wheel fit simulator tool. This is a new product for us, and this is something we're really excited to start using back here in the shop. And what this does is it allows you to mock up a tire in the wheel well of your car and determine what size rim you're going to need to make it fit. And what this doesn't do is just spit out a measurement and tell you exactly what backspace and offset you're going to need. So in this video, we're going to show you how to use this and talk about some terms so that you're sure to order the right wheel when it comes time. One of the great things about this tool is that it will simulate a wide variety of rim sizes. So it'll go all the way down to a 14-inch diameter, all the way up to a 20-inch diameter. It will go 7 inches wide, all the way out to 17 inches wide, and it has several different bolt circles on here. So this can also be used to determine what bolt circle you have. And they're marked on here, so it's easy to tell which one you're working with. But as I mentioned before you can use this thing on your car, you need to understand what you're measuring and then what you need to know in order to order your wheels. We're gonna use this wheel to sort of establish some measurements that we're gonna apply then when we start using our wheel fitment tool. So the first thing we're gonna need to measure is the overall width of the rim. So this is a 10.5-inch wide wheel measured from the inside of the bead to the inside of the bead. But the overall width is typically about an inch wider than that. So in this case, that makes it 11.5 inches wide. And so then from there, you can determine the wheel center line, which in this case, 11.5 minus 5 3/4 will put you right in the middle of the wheel. And that's gonna come in handy later on when we start talking about offset. The other thing then that you're gonna need to know, and a term that you're gonna need to understand, is backspace. And we're gonna measure that from the outside of the rim on the back to the center, the face where the hub bolts onto the car. So in this case, measuring down to the center to our straight edge, that is 7-inch backspace on this wheel. And from there, we can start talking about offset. Now, typically when you order a wheel, you can just measure by width, diameter, and backspace, but sometimes it's expressed in offset, and to add to the complexity, it's expressed in millimeters. So that's kind of a calculation that we can make based on the measurements that we just took. Offset is expressed in either positive or negative. So a wheel with 0 offset, the hub face where it bolts onto the car will be right at the wheel center line. A wheel with a positive offset will move that center line out towards the face of the wheel. So if you look at lots of like front wheel drive cars, lots of late model, like a new Corvette, it will have a high positive offset with that hub face moved out to the center. A negative offset moves that hub face back towards the inside of the wheel. So like a deep dish wheel that you see on the back of a muscle car, that is a high negative offset wheel. So this is a calculation. Now that we know what our overall width is, we know what our center line is, and we know what our backspace is, this is a calculation that we can run to determine on this wheel what the offset is. The formula for calculating offset is backspace minus wheel center line. So in our case, that's our 7-inch backspace minus our 5 3/4 wheel center line, which gives us 1 1/4, 1.25. Now that's our offset, but that's only gets us part of the way there. So remember, offset is expressed in millimeters. So we need to multiply by 25.4. There are 25.4 millimeters in an inch. And so taking that 1.25 times 25.4 will give us our offset in millimeters. When we run that calculation, that ends up being 31.75 millimeters. So this is, give or take, a 31 millimeter offset wheel. So now that we know all of these terms, we've run these calculations, we can go to our wheel fitment tool and actually take a measurement that will help us to order the right wheels when it comes to putting tires and wheels on our car. All right, we've assembled the tool into a tire. In this case, it's a 255/35/18. So obviously we've got it on the 18-inch wheel diameter. And we're gonna put it on our Chevelle here and kind of move it around and show you how to use the tool. And then we're gonna show you how to take some measurements based on what we find. So we've got this center kind of loosened up here. And now we can kind of move it around to find where our ideal backspace and offset is. So we'll put her on the car here. This is a 5 on 4 3/4 bolt circle. So we'll put it on that those holes. And we'll just zip it on with a couple lug nuts to hold it. And now obviously our wheel is too far in, so in this case we have too much positive offset. So we're gonna loosen this up and move this out and take away some backspace. All right, that's a little closer to where we're gonna want it. Now the other thing to remember when you're actually doing this on the car is to make sure you're at ride height. So right now we have the axle drop so that we can get this on and off. You're not gonna be able to find out anything unless you have everything mocked up at ride height. So we're gonna run our jack up here and move this up to where it's actually gonna sit with weight on the car. That's another thing, should go without saying, but you can't, these will not support the weight of the car, so don't set the jack down with this thing mocked up because it's not gonna work. All right, now we've got this run up into the wheel well. You can kind of stick our hand in here and feel we've got room to the inside. We've got a little bit of room to the outside. So here's where you can kind of make a choice. And if you want to measure for a wheel that moves it a little bit farther in, you can loosen it up and do that. If you want to measure for a wheel that moves it a little bit farther out, you can loosen it up and do that. We're just about as close as I want to be to this fender lip right now. I'm going to move it out just a little bit more. You can tighten up these wing nuts to hold it. So there, we have simulated where we want the tire to be in the wheel well. And so now we're gonna pull this off and we're gonna take those measurements that we talked about earlier. All right, now with all of this locked into place, we'll be able to use this to take the measurements to determine what size wheel we would need to put this tire in that position on this car. So remember, our first measurement was overall width, which in this case is 10 inches. So we would need a 9-inch wheel width to fit this tire. All right, and the next thing we're gonna measure then is our backspace. This is easier without the tire on, but we'll be able to get close here. All right, and that works out to a 5-inch backspace. And so from there, we would have enough to order wheels. We would be able to say that we have an 18-inch diameter, we would be able to say that we needed a 9-inch width, and we would be able to say that we had a 5-inch backspace. Offset, remember, is a calculation that we'll have to run, and so we'll calculate that for this wheel as well. So this one is going to give us a nice round number. We have a 9-inch rim, which works out to a 10-inch overall width. So then that wheel center line is going to be 5 inches. Well, we have a 5-inch backspace, so we know that we have a 0 offset wheel that would fit this in this case. Obviously, if that shifted in either direction, then we would need to run that calculation as we discussed before. So overall, this is just a great tool to actually physically put a tire up in your wheel well to help you determine what's going to fit and what wheel you're going to need. It's a great way before you just throw a dart at the board and hope that you're ordering the right size wheel. This is a great way to make sure that you get the look and the stance that you want. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, and thanks for watching.